What's going on, everyone? Welcome back. Today, I'm going to showcase a bit of an interesting pick here in the Spring Cup. It is Shadow Shiftry running Hurricane. This moveset is one of the most unexpected things, I think, in this meta. People expect Shiftry, they see Foul Play, they see Leaf Blade. They don't remember this Pokemon gets access to Hurricane, which in this meta is insane coverage. Let's get into the battles and see what this Pokemon can do. All right, let's get right on into it. First game of the day, Tentacruel as our lead up against a Shadow Galarian Weezing, a very good lead matchup here. Our backline doesn't really want to fight this, so if our opponent wants to stay in, they can be our guest. They actually try to swap out here, maybe catch a move, but because I didn't throw any energy here, I'm going to stay in and see what we can do. I don't have a hard answer to Amoonguss, right? So what I'm going to do instead of just instantly swapping out is go for a Chip and Dip with Sludge Wave, and then likely come in with my own Amoonguss. I go for one more Poison Jab, and then I catch the move here to not only sneak and Astonish, but almost guarantee this is a Foul Play coming through. Foul Play obviously not doing too much damage here to my own Amoonguss, and now they're in Astonish downrange. I will take a second charge attack, but likely just a Sludge Bomb. Oh no, just a Foul Play here, actually. That's even better for us to see. Take a lot less damage than they could have otherwise got against us if they did land a Sludge Bomb here, and we're going to force energy from the Shadow Galarian Weezing before I can reach a Sludge Bomb. In comes a charge attack. What's it going to be? A Sludge is going to knock us out here, but that's fine. That's a lot of energy down the drain for them, and my Tentacruel can once again get realigned here into the Shadow Galarian Weezing. In the back for opponent, going to be a Shadow Marshall. My switch clock was not quite up yet, and while this is a very good matchup here for a Grass-type Pokemon, we have to keep in mind this Pokemon has access to Sludge nowadays, right? If they outpace us and land a Sludge against us, we will definitely get one shot, so we have to shield every single charge move here, and I have to hope that I can land a Leaf Blade to one-shot this Marshtomp. We did get a shield with that Scald, which was pretty nice to see. Another Leaf Blade going to be thrown from us here. Is this going to land? Our opponent actually lets it go at one shot to the Shadow Marshtomp, and back comes in that Shiftry, or rather the Weezing into our Shiftry. This isn't the best matchup to be in, but I also know I do have Hurricane, but honestly, I think Leaf Blade at this point is going to be enough to put them into a nice Poison Jab downrange. I'm going to throw the Leaf Blade, see if it can land. If our opponent shields, so be it, but if they end up letting it go, it's going to do a massive amount of damage. They do shield that attack here, and they're going to go for a charge move against our Shadow Shiftry. At this point, I might get knocked out by a Sludge. Our opponent, though, they go for a Brutal Swing, not quite enough to take us out, which means now we can land this Leaf Blade, knock out this Galarian Weezing, or at least do a massive amount of damage. Yeah, nearly do all of their remaining HP there, about 50% of their health left, is able to get knocked out by a Leaf Blade there. GG to our opponent. Next matchup, a Tropius in the lead. A very good lead matchup once again for us. Our backline really doesn't want to face off against flying-type Pokemon, and they end up safe swapping here to a Shadow Feraligatr. A little bit of a slow counter swap by me, which might be a bit bad for us right now. I know that while I am very spammy with our Leaf Blades, these Hydro Cannons and Shadow Claws, despite being resisted, could potentially knock us out the longer this matchup goes. I'm going to throw a Leaf Blade here, see if our opponent shields. I would assume they will. Our opponent, once again, does want to get both shields from us if they can. Our opponent is already at another Hydro Cannon, and at this point, I know I'm not going to reach another 2 Leaf Blades before they're able to knock us out here, so this is going to be just a little bit precarious. In comes our next Leaf Blade. Our opponent at this point likely will shield this up because there are only 2 more Shadow Claws away from a Hydro Cannon. I'm going to do a Snarl, try to catch the move. It doesn't quite work out, but our opponent doesn't swap out or anything, so it seems like they're actually a little bit weak to our Tentacruel. In comes a charge move. It could be a Crunch, it could be a Hydro Cannon. It actually is a Crunch here. Interesting play by them running that instead of Ice Beam in this meta. And then they come in with a Golisopod, a Pokemon that normally Tentacruel wouldn't have a lot of charge move pressure against, but I am running Sludge Wave, so our opponent is basically triple weak at this game into our Tentacruel. You have to keep in mind as well, we do have access to Hurricane on our Shadow Shiftry. Because of that, I can potentially one-shot that Tropius that was in the lead. Let's see if that's going to come to be here in just a second. Our opponent actually lets us get the full Poison Jab down here. I could have thrown the Scald. I guess I tried to go for New Mechanic there. Didn't quite end up working, but in comes a Hurricane. How much damage is this about to do here to this Tropius? Is it going to be one-shot potential? No, not quite, but it does about 90% of the Tropius's HP there. We can Astonish down, and now that game is ours. GG to our opponent. Next matchup, a Tentacruel lead into a Cradily, a little bit more of an awkward lead here. Let's see what we can make happen this game. I'm going to do one Poison Jab, then swap out to my Amoonguss to resync our fast moves here. I'm going to get an Astonish Sneak, but they're going to go for a Rock Tomb, likely to lower my attack stat and make it so my Amoonguss is slightly worse off against the backline. With that said, they are staying in, at least they were for just a second, so I got a decent amount of Astonish damage against them, as well as I built up a decent amount of energy against this Tentacruel that is going to counter swap into us right now. Foul Play is going to chunk them down. Despite being debuffed here, it is going to add up quite a bit over time, especially with these Astonishes. I'm almost at a third Foul Play as well. Let's see if our opponent is going to be able to knock us out with this next charge move. I'm going to instantly throw the Foul Play here to try to get this off before potentially they can snipe us down with a Scald or with a Sludge Wave. Our opponent might have actually CMP'd us here too, which would be music to my ears, because if they did, then we should be in a good spot where we can farm this all the way down with our Tentacruel. Scald will, in fact, knock us out here, and comes our own Tentacruel. And at this point, I'm going to be able to get a huge farm down and potentially start knocking out this Cradily. Our opponent, though, they end up swapping out, saving the HP and energy on that Tentacruel for potentially later on in this game. I was happy to see the Tentacruel come against our Amoonguss earlier this game, but now that they've saved it, they're going to have a lot of fast food pressure potentially against our Shadow Shiftry, which I don't know if we can take. Leaf Blade is going to do a lot of damage here to Cradilly. Our opponent is going to invest their first shield, which means now I'm going to take a debuff from these Rock Tombs. Shiftry, though, is a very spammy Pokemon. I'm going to overfarm as much energy as I can. CMP on the next charge attack here, knowing that I likely will still knock them out despite the debuff. If I can get enough energy here at the end of the game, there's a chance our Shadow Shiftry could still put in a lot of work. I have no idea what the final Pokemon is going to be, and our opponent is going to shield once again. This is going to be the fourth charge move thrown since we ended up swapping out, so I know they could swap at any moment here. They end up trying to do a snipe down with their Tentacruel, but I can swap out myself, go for a full Poison Jab down against this Tentacruel, and I have a lot of energy left over on my Shadow Shiftry. Scald does not debuff us. Great stuff to see here. What is their final Pokemon going to be? They're waiting for just a second. What are they going to come in with? We have a ton of energy. Our opponent is going to bring in the Ferrothorn, probably one of the best Pokemon they could have had to drain 100 energy from a Tentacruel. Scald is going to come through. How much damage does it do? Honestly, not that much, but we have to keep in mind our Shadow Shiftry is still in the backline. We got an attack drop as well against this, which might make it a bit harder for them to go for a full fast move farm down against us. A double attack drop actually incredibly helpful for us, and now Cradilly is going to come in to try to clear their debuff and potentially knock out our Tentacruel. I would reach a charge move. They're forced to throw an attack before I can knock out the Cradilly. At this point, my win condition is getting a full Snarl down and throwing a Hurricane against that Ferrothorn. We get the full Snarl down. Is Hurricane enough damage here to knock out Ferrothorn? They're above half HP. How much damage can a Shadow Shiftry do? Hurricane being thrown. Our opponent is not able to survive. Shiftry able to win the game. All right, next matchup, we're going to see Tentacruel up against a Galarian Weezing, a very good matchup once again for our Tentacruel. I'm going to see if our opponent's going to swap or if they're going to stay in. A little bit of a slow swap out by me. I'm actually still in this matchup here. I wasn't expecting the instant swap out into a Shadow for Alligator. I probably should have instantly swapped into my Shadow Shiftry the second I saw Mono Water type Pokemon swap in, but we're still in a decent spot. I guess we'll have to see how this game's going to go, though. I took quite a bit of damage, though, from that charge move on our Tentacruel, which is not great to see. I'm going to go for a Leaf Blade here and see what our opponent will do. At this point, I know that our Shadow Shiftry would take a lot of damage from a Hydro Cannon and basically get knocked out from a charge move if it's an Ice Beam. Our opponent does go for a move. It's a Hydro Cannon. It doesn't quite knock us out, and I have another Leaf Blade ready to go. This will easily knock them out at this point if they do let this move through. Our opponent does shield it up, and they're going to go for a full Shadow Claw down, which is honestly a little bit scary. A lot of energy on Gator is generally going to go a long way for them. In comes another charge move. I know I resist the Hydro Cannons here, but it's still going to add up so much, especially with how much damage these Shadow Claws could do to us. They're already at another Hydro Cannon as well. I'll have to shield this up if I want to get a full Poison Jab down. I don't want to rely solely on my Amoonguss at this point. I want to have a bit of energy on my Tentacruel in the backline. So we do another Poison Jab, and then we swap down to our Amoonguss here. We save energy on our Tentacruel. Potentially, we can still win this game, depending on the calls I make in this matchup. Sludge Bomb is going to do a decent amount of damage here, but I know they're not going to be a one-shot by this move, and our opponent is going to be able to potentially go for an Overheat or maybe a Sludge Bait. It's a critical call. I'm going to no-shield. It's not going to be an Overheat. It's a Sludge. Luckily, we don't get one shot here, but our opponent is almost at another Sludge after this move, which means I will have to throw energy if I want to knock out this Pokemon. Sludge does end up getting our final shield. I have to go for a Foul Play. They were almost at their next Sludge there, so I have to throw this energy anyway. Foul Play does, in fact, knock them out, and in the back, potentially a chance for us right now. I can outpace to a Foul Play. I have a Sludge Wave loaded. I just have to call that my opponent is going to throw the move when they're going to throw it here. I'm going to not swap out. Our opponent expecting the combo play. Thanks to my patience here, I'm able to save our Tentacruel, not get sniped down by this Aqua Jet. We can swap out now, go for the Sludge Wave, and this should be more than enough damage to knock out this Golisopod. Tentacruel in the backline putting in a ton of work right now. Sludge Wave able to knock out Golisopod and win us the game there. All right, next matchup, going to see Tentacruel into the Klefki, a Pokemon which is a very cool pick in this meta, but also a bit of a scary Pokemon for my Tentacruel. It's not a bad matchup per se, but it's also not a great one, right? These Astonishes and Foul Plays will add up, and my Poison Jabs are resisted by the Steel typing, meaning that I can't necessarily farm down after landing a Scald. Foul Play puts us below half HP here, and opponent makes a fantastic catch on the Lapras. With that said, I know that a Leaf Blade doesn't quite one-shot from full HP. There's a chance that after this little bit of chip damage from that charge move, a Leaf Blade could be enough to knock them out. Instantly throw the Leaf Blade here. Let's see what our opponent is going to do. Leaf Blade will do a massive amount of damage or draw the shield here, I guess, from the Lapras. Our opponent does have a lot of energy, though. What move are they going to throw? I don't want to risk an Ice Beam just one-shotting us right now. It's almost certainly a bait. Yeah, they obviously go for a Sparkling Aria bait there, but it's still fine. That's only like 2 less Psy Waves than an Ice Beam, so it's still not that bad of a situation to be in. Leaf Blade comes through, gets the one-shot against that remaining HP on the Lapras here, and back comes in that Klefki. I know how spammy that this Pokemon can be, though. I am only 1 Snarl away from the next Leaf Blade. It is 3 Snarls for the first 3 Leaf Blades, only 2 for the 4th Leaf Blade. Our opponent must not realize that. We're able to reach this move right on CMP. They could have thrown before now if they wanted to, but because we had so much energy here, we're able to knock out the Klefki, knock out the Lapras, and get a shield from this Gastron. With that said, these Mudslaps are doing just a little bit too much damage here, but I have a second Grass type in the back that should be able to close out this game. While we don't actually have any grass type damage, and honestly, these mudsaps are neutral against us thanks to our poison typing, it's not going to be a bad matchup for us. We still have a shield, we still have access to a lot of neutral damage with Astonish and Foul Play, and we also have half HP on our Tentacruel just in case we need it. I'm going to no shield because I know Earth Power, it's not going to knock us out here. It can also get a defense drop, so if they do end up defense dropping me and then landing another Earth Power, that would be our lose condition. But yeah, we survived that move, go for another Foul Play, and this should be enough to knock out this Gastrodon here, and we will end up winning in this game. All right, next matchup going to be Tentacruel in the lead into a Ferrothorn. Not a great lead matchup. Let's see what we can do. I know some of these Ferrothorns have been running Metal Claw. This one, I guess, is not one of them here. I'm going to swap out, try our best to use our Amoonguss on the safe swap to potentially get a shield, or maybe just set up our Shadow Shiftry by drawing out a bad Pokemon for it to see. With that said, Lapras is actually one of the better Pokemon that our Shiftry could have been lined up into, so this is a little bit of an awkward matchup to be in. Side Waves are adding up, and I know this Pokemon could have access to Ice Beam. Even Skull Bat should basically knock us out from this range. I'm going to shield this up and see what they're going to do. Ice Beam is going to be thrown, so now that I know their moveset here, I'm honestly going to be able to get a full Poison Jab down with our Tentacruel as long as I can get a shield here. Let's see what our opponent's going to do. Foul Play does end up getting a shield from them, and now I'm almost at my next Foul Play. I'm going to force them to throw another move against us right now if they want to knock us out before I can knock them out. In comes the Ice Beam, and I'm going to set myself up a nice Poison Jab down on our Tentacruel. I don't really know what the final Pokemon's going to be this game. They're already pretty weak to Shadow Shiftry, though, so I have no idea if we have any chance of winning this game. Let's see what they're going to throw. It's going to be an Ice Beam here, and now I'm going to get one extra Snarl of an energy lead here against this Pokemon. Unfortunately for us, it's not going to be a great matchup for a Shiftry. I know Leaf Blade is spammy, but I don't think I have enough of an energy lead to reach these 3 charge moves against them before they can reach 2 Aerial Aces against us. In comes the first charge move from them. I know I get one shot by an Aerial Ace. I have to shield this up, and I just have to hope that our pacing is good enough here to win us this match. That said, I know I need 4 Snarls, and I know by the time I do those 4 Snarls, they're going to be at the next Aerial Ace. This is looking like a lost cause. Leaf Blade going to come through. Maybe they no-shield. No, of course not. They're going to end up going for the next charge move here, and unfortunately, our Shiftry just a little bit too slow in this endgame scenario to win this matchup. Ace knocks us out. That Ferrothorn is still way too healthy. GG to our opponent. Next matchup, Tentacruel into the Weezing, a very good matchup for our Weezing and a very bad matchup for backline Pokemon. Let's see if we can have any chance in the backline. They end up safe swapping a Cradilla Pokemon I don't have a hard answer to, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to let them debuff us potentially and then swap into a Pokemon that can at least a little bit more easily deal with this Pokemon. In comes our Shadow Shiftry. I know that our Snarls are going to add up quite a bit, and I don't get one shot by a Rock Tomb here. Honestly, it probably only does like 75% of our HP, but let's see, it also has almost no faster pressure into us here, so I think this is going to be at least a decent matchup for our Shadow Shiftry. We also have to keep in mind there is that Weezing in the backline, and because Weezing is a Pokemon our Shadow Shiftry wants to avoid at all costs, getting our Shiftry some use here is going to be a good thing for us. Leaf Blade is going to be thrown. Our opponent likely will no-shield this move, because if they shield this up, I think I can match shields, go for a full Snarl down. I don't think they want that. They realize that, and they come in with their Weezing once again. A little bit awkward, I don't reach a Leaf Blade there. Wouldn't have done a lot of damage, but any chip damage against Weezing would always be nice. And our Tentacruel did already take a Rock Tomb, right? Which is not great for us to see. It means that we're a little bit chipped down into a range where Brutal Swings or like Overheat or Sludge, if they have those moves instead, they would do quite a bit of damage. They might actually start threatening our Tentacruel. And since their final Pokemon in the backline is a Jellicent, our Amoonguss is going to try its very best to knock this thing out. Since they shielded an early Foul Play here, I'm going to opt to shield myself, try our best to whittle down this Pokemon so our Tentacruel doesn't have to deal with it. If I can get a second shield, I know I win this game guaranteed, but if they do opt to no shield their Jellicent on this next attack, it could be a little bit awkward. Shadow Ball does end up doing a lot of damage to us here, but Amoonguss is bulky enough to survive that, plus these next hexes, go for a Foul Play, either knockout or draw the final shield from this Jellicent. They do no shield, which I think is the proper play at this point. Their win condition is just investing everything in their Galarian Weezing. They're at a charge move right now. I know they're only at 8 Fairy Winds, though. I'm going to shield up. They're not at back-to-back Sludge, but they are, in fact, at back-to-back Brutal Swings. Maybe a bit of a misplay to shield that move up here, because now I don't reach this charge move, and they will have their Weezing against my Tentacruel in the backline, which could be a little bit annoying. With that said, I have a lot of energy on our Tentacruel. Scalds are going to add up quite a bit over time. Same with our Poison Jabs, and they actually shield the first charge move, which means I'm going to be free to go for a full-on Sludge Wave, which is going to do quite a bit more damage. In comes the charge move here. They're not at back-to-back Brutal Swings just yet. This is going to knock out the Weezing and just barely take us the win in that game. All right, next matchup, going to see Tentacruel in the lead up against a Weezing. Once again, one of the most common leads in this meta. Why I always like to lead a Pokemon in Spring Cup that is good against these Pokemon. Another safe swap of a Feraligatr, another slow swap in by me, unfortunately. With that said, I can go for the Leaf Blade here. Let's see what our opponent will do. Almost definitely going to get a shield from them, saying they have not thrown any energy yet. They don't want to get one shot, and I'm going to try to call a move. Since this is a non-Shadow Feraligatr, I don't think a Hydro Cannon is going to do anywhere near as much damage. Honestly, it does do quite a bit of damage to us here, but not enough to one-shot us, and I think we will survive the Shadow Claws long enough to get to 2 more Leaf Blades. Hydro Cannon does quite a bit of damage to us, or it would have if I didn't shield up that move, but luckily that shield is going to save all of our energy on our Shiftry. We're at back-to-back Leaf Blades right now. Our opponent can't really shield, but they do, which means I have a second one ready to go. We're going to keep switch advantages this game, and we just got a shield from them for free since they shielded twice on their Feraligatr. In comes that Weezing once again. I do have my Tentacruel for this matchup. Our opponent is going to stand for a second and then swap in to a bit of a core breaker to our two poison types in the back line. Lapras is a Pokemon I don't have a hard answer to once our Shadow Shiftry is gone, meaning I'm going to have to kind of combo play this, go for a Sludge Wave and the Poison Jab damage with our Tentacruel, then come in with our Amoonguss and try our very best to knock this Pokemon out. Thanks to Shadow Shiftry putting in so much work earlier on in this game, I have this shield left over. They have no shields remaining. In comes a foul play. This should knock out this Lapras and potentially make it so that Weezing has to overheat us to win the game for our opponent. And if they ever overheat us here, that also means that they're going to be in a range where they have no damage against our Tentacruel. They realize that, and we win the match there. GG to our opponent. Next game here going to be the Shadow Parathorn in the lead with Metal Claw, actually, of all things. And since they're on Metal Claw, I'm actually going to stay in for just a second. I know they have a lot less fast move pressure and a lot less charge move pressure running this moveset because they are running the Steel-type fast move rather than the Grass-type one. In comes a Scald and a debuff here. I'm going to go for a nasty catch. Let's see what our opponent is going to throw. Could be a Mirror Shot bait, but it could also just as well be a Power Whip, which it is. It ends up being resisted and debuff damage into our Amoonguss. Fantastic catch by us. And unfortunately for our opponent, their best answer to an Amoonguss is apparently their own Tentacruel. This is not a great answer for them because at this point, I'm able to go for Astonish and Foul Play, chip them down, and they're going to be forced, if they have it, to throw a Sludge Wave if they want to knock us out from this range. Sludge Wave obviously would knock us out, but if they have Acid Spray or Scald potentially as their other move, it's not going to knock us out. I guess it is on Sludge, unfortunately, so we don't get that next Foul Play off, but it's fine. We can come back in with our Tentacruel and start dealing with this Pokemon as well as we can. I know there's no move they can have that wouldn't do anything more than resisted damage against our own Tentacruel, so we're able to no-shield that move, get up to 100 energy, go for a Scald of our own, and potentially knock out this Tentacruel and have a decent amount of energy in the backline. Scald ends up landing, it is able to knock out the Tentacruel, and I have another Scald ready to go. If this ends up landing at this point, I know it's going to be in a range where I can either fast move down or even just be in Leaf Blade range after some Snarl damage here. They do shield up that attack, and they're going to throw a move up against our Shadow Shiftry. This is not a great situation to be in, because even though Mirror Shot's not a strong move, it's Shadow into Shadow, and Metal Claw is actually kind of adding up right now. I'm a little bit scared about what they might have in the backline. In comes another charge move. It's going to be a Mirror Shot, obviously. It could get a debuff. It doesn't debuff us, which is fantastic to see. And since I don't have Foul Play, I just have to hope at this point that Leaf Blade is enough damage to knock them out. It gets a shield, which is good enough for us, I think, at this point. We have another Leaf Blade ready to go. Is this enough? It's Shadow into Shadow. It's a Leaf Blade. I know it's extremely resisted, but Shadow Shiftry is going to throw it, knock out the Ferrothorn, and in the back is a Shadow Quagsire. Fantastic news there. We were able to win that game thanks to Shadow Shiftry in the back. Next matchup is going to be another Ferrothorn in the lead, not the Shadow, and also not running Metal Claw, so it's going to be an interesting game to see what they're going to do. And they're actually staying in this matchup for some reason. They haven't swapped out just yet, meaning they might have Flash Cannon, they might try to do a chip and dip, but I'm kind of fine with this because I get a lot of chip damage myself into this Ferrothorn by going for these Astonishes as well as that Foul Play. In comes a charge move, almost certainly going to be a Flash Cannon. It does do a decent chunk of our HP, and they respond with their own Amoonguss here into my Amoonguss. They have a Shadow one, though, which is even cooler, I guess. But we go for a Foul Play bait. Let's see if our opponent shields up this move or if they're going to let it go. They do shield. Fantastic news for us, and now I think I can get another move right before I get completely astonished down. In comes a charge attack. This won't do much damage, but it's going to do enough here to at least chip them down into a range where maybe I can Poison Jab them down, or at the very least I can make it so they're in Scald range if I need to throw a charge move. In comes an attack. I know they probably don't have Grass Knot. I say as they throw it here. Not great to see, but I can go. I didn't really try to catch, but I do want to go for a bit of an energy lead on Shadow Shiftry, so I'm going to shield this move anyway. Foul Play would have done a decent chunk of damage anyway. And they come in a Jellicent of all things. I guess their team was just triple weak to Shadow Shiftry. They had the Amoonguss in the backline that I resist the Astonishes, and well, basically every move on them, because they don't even have the Sludge Bomb moveset. They have the Marathon that was in the lead and this Jellicent right now, which means they are absolutely in shambles. We no shield. That was only a bubble beam of energy, actually. Even crazier stuff from our opponent. I'm going to overfarm CMP on the next Leaf Blade. My attack is at -1. I think this is still going to be enough to knock them out here, and because of that, I should be able to get a full Shadow Shiftry sweep, go for the Hurricane against this Ferrothorn here. I try to wait a turn, the visuals are like, no, I'm not going to let you see what's going on. With that said, I think we still threw the move here into the Ferrothorn, and now that Amoonguss in the backline is not going to want to take a Leaf Blade despite resisting this move, and despite it being debuffed. Shadow Shiftry just going for a full-on endgame sweep here due to good energy management and setting up a shield advantage in our favor. GG there to our opponent. Next matchup, Tentacruel up against a Shadow Empoleon. Not a great lead matchup to see here, but I do have two Pokemon in the back line that can at least kind of deal with this. It is also on Steel Wing, which I think is a little bit better for me. If it was on Metal Claw, they could actually outpace us to the Drill Pecks here, but since it's on Steel Wing, while they will have a bit more fast food pressure, they're not necessarily going to be able to outpace us to these Drill Pecks. I can shield and make their life pretty uncomfortable. They're still staying in this matchup, which is really nice to see. At this point, even my Tentacruel could kind of deal with this Empoleon at this HP range. Our opponent is going to stay in and actually just let this move land. They're not going to catch him a move on anything here, which is kind of interesting at this point. Foul play does end up getting that final shield from our opponent. Astonish is adding up so incredibly quickly. We're going to go for a foul play. I guess not. No, we get completely sidewave down. Not exactly what we want to see here, but I do have a Shadow Shiftry, which in theory is a decent wall to a lot of this energy. I'm going to shield up a potential Ice Beam here. Our opponent going for a Surf Bait. Not exactly what I want to see. I'm going to overfarm, but our opponent reaches a Charge Move right before my Leaf Blade. This could be bad. What is it going to be here? It's going to be just a Surf. We actually survived that pretty easily. We can get a full Snarl down. We have 100 energy on our Shiftry. Can we win this game? Our opponent is thinking, who do they bring in here? They bring in the Empoleon. We have a Leaf Blade ready. I still have like 65 energy ready to go against whatever the final Pokemon's going to be. That's a full Hurricane. That's 2 Leaf Blades, basically. Our opponent top lefts GG to them. I guess they had nothing for that much energy on a Shiftry, which is fair enough. That Pokemon is a very scary pick in the backline. Next match, we're going to see a Tentacruel mirror match. Once again, one of the better places I could see a Poison-type Pokemon with this whole team, but it's always dependent on debuffs here and potentially how they play out this game to see if our own Tentacruel can make this match a lot more playable for us. They end up swapping out to their own Amoonguss here. I don't have a great counter swap, so I bring in my own Amoonguss down energy. I did get a couple of Poison Jabs to chip them down a little bit, and I go for a Sludge Bomb here to try to do as much damage as we can. Sludge Bomb, while it's not super effective, is still going to do the most damage out of any move I can throw. They end up letting it go here, which is nice for us to see, but they have Foul Play. Maybe they have Sludge Bomb of their own. They do Sludge Bombs here, and in comes a full Astonish down against them. They actually could have gone for a Foul Play, so I think our opponent might be trying to set something up here. They're trying to set up a Shadow Cacturn. So this is very similar to a team that I myself used the other day in the Go Battle League. I love this team. I'm using a very similar team to that today, right? I'm using the Shadow Cacturn, or Shadow Shiftry rather, instead of Shadow Cacturn, which means that at this point, I am going to try our best to spam out Charge Moves with Shadow Shiftry, but I don't know if we have enough HP on that Pokemon in the backline to win this game. The biggest problem is if they're on Acid Spray on this Tentacruel, this is not looking good for us because Fast Move Pressure is going to just shred through our Shadow Shiftry's HP. Scald ends up knocking us out. That's not great to see here. And these Poison Jabs are doing so much damage they throw on bad timing. If your opponent ever throws on bad timing, that almost certainly means they want to just get a debuff off as soon as they can. Look at these Poison Jabs. That is ridiculous damage. Unfortunately, not able to win in that game. All right, Tentacruel into a Shadow Tentacruel in this next matchup here. Let's see if it's going to be a similar team to that last game, or if our opponent has a different team comp in mind. I'm going to try our best, though, once again, neutralize the Poison type in the lead matchup here and see what we can do. They end up winning CMP here. I hope they don't go for a Scald debuff. That would be very unfortunate if they end up getting that debuff here. Of course, that's what ends up happening. That debuff is going to mean now I'm not able to do anywhere near as much damage to them as they are to us, and I'm going to swap out to clear my debuff and potentially make something happen. We don't debuff them, which is a little bit bad to see, but I do go for a Foul Play instantly. No catch happens, which is fantastic for us. If they let this go, this might be enough to knock them out. They do let it go. I'll take it. I knock out the Shadow Tentacruel there in the lead. That's honestly a very worrisome Pokemon that is now out of the way. And this might just be the same exact team we just fought, right? It might be an Amoonguss in the back line. If that is the case, we have a little bit of play, but this farm down is honestly kind of nasty that they're getting right now. Astonish is not doing a lot of damage. I'm not even sure I'm going to get to another charge move, and our opponent potentially misplays here. They go for a charge move against us to knock us out. They didn't want to get us or worry about us getting to another move. They go for a Trailblaze, but by throwing the energy there, I don't have to shield that up. I can come back in Shadow Tentacruel, or a Tentacruel into the Shadow Cacturn and get a lot of Poison Jab damage off. Unfortunately, a one-turn lag, meaning I get one less free Poison Jab against them, and I call the instant swap out here. Instead of staying in with our Tentacruel, I'm going to swap out instantly to our Shadow Shiftry, go straight for a Hurricane. Are they going to expect this move? In comes the Flying type charge move. It one-shots the Shadow Amoonguss, and at this point, I have just so much faster pressure with our Tentacruel. I might even be able to survive long enough here to just knock out the Shadow Cacturn with our Shadow Shiftry. Leaf Blade gets the shield here. Our Snarls are actually kind of chunking this Pokemon. We just snarl them down. Shadow Shiftry putting in way too much work in that game. GG to our opponent. Next matchup, another Empoleon in the lead. Not a great lead matchup for us, but we do have play in the backline. Let's see what our opponent is going to do. They end up having the Metal Claw moveset as well. This is the more awkward of the two movesets that we could see, because as you can see here, they do get to a Drill Peck right before my first Foul Play. With that said, our Astonish damage is going to add up, but our opponent swaps out to a Shadow Amoonguss, a Pokemon that is going to be able to be in a decent matchup against us here, saying that they got a decent amount of Metal Claw chip as well as a shield against us before swapping into the mirror match. Sludge Bomb does actually get a shield from them here, which is kind of interesting to see. I guess they do want to get the shield on the guaranteed nuke move. Sludge Bomb is going to be thrown by them. I'm barely able to survive, get to another Sludge Bomb of my own, and trip down this Amogus into a much more manageable range where I can poison jab them down with our Tentacruel. I could also potentially go for a full Snarl down at some point if they do throw energy, but no, they're almost knocked out at this point already. Maybe it's just better to stay in here and go for a full poison jab down. I did get a bit of chip damage against that Empoleon, and I do actually go for the play where I get a bit of energy lead on my own Shadow Shiftry. They come in with another Shadow Cacturne. This Pokemon is a very overwhelming Pokemon a lot of the time, but when they're down energy here, I think we're not going to be in a terrible spot. We actually end up landing the move here, which is amazing news. They also give us a full Snarl Sneak. I think my win condition at this point is going to be go for a full Snarl down and potentially start throwing Leaf Blades against that Empoleon later on in this game when it comes back in. Empoleon comes back in now. I have back-to-back Leaf Blades. While Metal Claw is going to do a lot of damage, I don't think it's going to one-shot us here with our remaining HP. I go for the Leaf Blade. They let it go. I get another one off. At this point, I have enough energy and HP on our Tentacruel. This game should be ours. Shadow Shiftry putting in so much work here. We have the Scald ready to go. Not only the Scald, we have a Sludge Wave that we can reach here in just a second. I know there's no way we get knocked out by a Charge from this Empoleon. Jolt Peck comes through. It does nothing to us. Sludge Wave gonna be thrown. Our opponent will not even see this coming here. It's gonna knock out the Steel-type Pokemon with a Poison-type move, or I guess they're gonna top left. Just as well there, right? Shadow Shifty putting in a lot of work here today, though. It's very similar to Shadow Cacturne in the sense that it's a Shadow Pokemon that can sweep through a lot of teams. It's also obviously a Grass and Dark-type Pokemon, but it's much more charge move oriented, which means it's a bit more flexible, a bit more dynamic, and a lot of fun to use. So definitely try this team out if you want a team that can potentially get you some elo and also be a little bit of fun. All right, well, thank you so much for watching today's video. If you enjoyed the battles and you want to see more content like this on the channel, please make sure to leave a like and subscribe. It helps out the channel a ton, and I would really appreciate it. Thank you again for watching. Take care, and I'll see you in the next one.